I thought I was hiring a nanny to help me with my baby. But the moment she walked through my door, my husband froze. He went pale, like he'd just seen a ghost. And when I asked him what was wrong, he said nothing. But the way he looked at her told me everything. Because that young woman wasn't a stranger. She was his daughter, and he'd been hiding her from me our entire marriage. My name's Melissa. I'm 34, married to Ethan, and we have a 2-year-old baby girl named Sophie. Ethan and I met in college, the classic power couple story. He was charming, ambitious, and a little older than me, 6 years to be exact. We built everything together. Our home, our careers, our family. I thought I knew every chapter of his past. Until the day I posted that innocent nanny job listing online. She applied under the name Hannah Blake. 21 years old, early childhood education major, spotless references. When she arrived for the interview, I noticed Ethan glance at her just once and then instantly look away. It was subtle, but not nothing. You know that weird tension you can feel in the air even when no one says a word? Yeah, that. Hannah smiled, shook my hand, and started talking about her experience. But Ethan barely spoke. He just sat there, gripping his coffee mug like it was the only thing holding him upright. When she left, I asked, "What do you think?" He said, "She's fine." A little too fast. "Are you sure?" I pressed. "Yeah, she's just familiar somehow." And then he changed the subject. At that moment, I thought maybe she reminded him of a student or someone from work. But 2 weeks later, I found something that made me realize this wasn't just déjà vu, it was a secret 18 years in the making. At first, everything seemed fine. Hannah was kind, patient, amazing with Sophie. She even baked cookies for us on weekends. But Ethan started acting off. He'd come home early from work, suddenly helping Hannah with chores. He'd get nervous whenever I mentioned her name. And once when she laughed in the kitchen, I swear I saw tears in his eyes. I remember texting my best friend, either he's having an emotional breakdown or an affair. And that's when I decided to test him. One night, I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. I left my phone recording on the table. Around midnight, I heard footsteps, his and hers whispering. My heart pounded. Hannah said softly, "You should have told her." Ethan replied, "I couldn't. Not after what happened with her mom." And then, silence. When I listened to that recording the next morning, my hands were shaking. Her mom? That phrase echoed in my head like a siren. Who exactly was this nanny? And what had he hidden from me? The next day, I went through Ethan's old storage box in the basement, the one labeled college and before. Inside, I found a yellowed envelope with a faded return address from another state. Inside, a birth certificate. The father's name? Ethan Roberts. The child's name? Hannah Blake. My stomach dropped. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He had a daughter, and he'd never told me. But why would she apply as our nanny under her real name? Unless she wanted to be found. That night, I confronted him. And his reaction wasn't what I expected. Because the secret he confessed next was darker than just a child from another relationship. "Ethan," I said quietly, "who is Hannah?" He didn't even try to lie. He sat down, buried his face in his hands, and whispered, "She's my daughter." I waited for the usual, the guilt, the apology, the story about young mistakes. But instead, he said, "She doesn't know the truth. She thinks I abandoned her." I felt rage boil up inside me. "How long were you planning to keep this from me? I wanted to tell you after the wedding. Then Sophie came and it just never felt right." But I wasn't buying it. Something about Hannah's behavior didn't fit. She wasn't angry or distant. She was watchful, like she was waiting for something to happen. The next week, little things started disappearing. My jewelry box, a few financial papers from Ethan's office, even Sophie's baby photos from our living room shelf. When I asked Hannah about it, she said she had no idea. But her tone, calm, confident, gave her away. So I did what any suspicious wife would do. I installed a nanny cam. 2 days later, I saw the footage. She wasn't stealing money. She was scanning documents. Ethan's tax records, insurance papers, and our marriage certificate. I confronted her. She didn't deny it. Instead, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "I deserve to know why he left us." "Us?" I repeated. Her voice cracked. "My mom died thinking he'd start a new life and come back. He never did. He just built one here." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Until she added, "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for what's mine." Then she walked out. That night, Ethan got a call. It was the lawyer handling his late ex's estate. Apparently, before she passed, she'd written a letter naming Ethan as the beneficiary of a life insurance policy, but only if he proved he'd reconnected with his daughter. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't about family. It was about money. Hannah had found out about the clause and inserted herself into our lives deliberately. But here's where it gets crazy. The letter also said the funds would go to Hannah if Ethan refused contact, which meant, either way, she'd win. By this point, I didn't know who to trust. But what happened next, during Sophie's second birthday party, completely destroyed what was left of our family. We had a few friends over. Balloons, cake, laughter. Hannah offered to take photos. Everything seemed normal, until Ethan gave his toast. He looked right at me and said, "I need to come clean about something before this goes any further." The room went silent. He turned toward Hannah. "I should have told you sooner," he said, voice trembling. Then to me, "Melissa, I'm sorry. I didn't just hide a daughter. I hid a truth even she doesn't know." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded letter, the original from his ex. It said Hannah isn't biologically his. She was his ex's child from another man, but he'd raised her as his own for the first 2 years of her life. When the relationship ended, he thought it was better to disappear than to confuse her. And Hannah? She had no idea. The moment he said those words, Hannah burst into tears. I did too. All that anger, suspicion, fear, suddenly replaced by pity. She whispered, "So you're not my dad?" Ethan nodded slowly. "I wanted to be, but I couldn't." She left that night. No dramatic goodbye, no closure, just silence. For weeks afterwards, Ethan and I barely spoke. We were two strangers under the same roof, haunted by what had been hidden and what had been lost. But about a month later, we got a letter. From Hannah. She'd gone back to finish her degree, and she wanted us to know she was okay. At the bottom, she wrote, "I came into your life to find the truth. Instead, I found peace. Thank you for giving me a second chance at family, even if it wasn't the one I expected." Sometimes the secrets that destroy us aren't born from cruelty. They're born from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of pain. Ethan's secret didn't just break our marriage. It forced us to face the parts of ourselves we tried to hide. We're still together, still healing, and still learning that truth, no matter how painful, is always kinder than silence. If you've ever uncovered a secret that changed your life, tell me your story in the comments.